And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Ann Tucker, trance channeler for information from the Angelic Realm and the Mother of Creation. The messages she brings through offer angelic guidance that will help to prepare us and usher us through the planetary shift in consciousness. And today we're going to talk about how to thrive during the ascension and more. Ann, welcome back. It's great to have you again.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm thrilled to be with you.
Well, we are excited to have you. And if you don't mind, for the people that are meeting you just for the first time, when did the angels start talking to you about the shift in consciousness?
Oh my gosh. So my whole process of accepting and opening has been coming in layers. You know, when I first I started off my journey as a healer. I was clairvoyant, clairsentience. I had a healing practice or modality that came in through me. And I was working as a full-time healer. And in that process, I one day I sat down to meditate. I would meditate every day. And I felt this crazy pressure that came down on my chest and on my head. And it felt like my guides were sitting on me. I could not figure it out. And I just would breathe, but it was heavy. It was so heavy. It was like I couldn't catch my breath. It was like they were pushing on me. And I didn't understand what was happening, but I was like, this is something exciting is happening. And I just kind of tried to breathe through it, but nothing developed. And it went on like 6 months. The minute I would sit down and meditate, boom, they would be sitting on me. And it took me like 6 months to figure out that they weren't I thought they were trying to come in this way. They used to come into my back. I'm like, why just come in already? Like, what's the deal? Finally, it dawned on me they were trying to lift me up. So I opened up my crown chakra and zoop, I was up like instantly. And I'm up and I see myself and I'm a clairvoyant. That's one of the ways I see is clairvoyantly. And I see myself, I'm in this space and I'm surrounded by angels. I'm like, wow, it's so exciting. You know, this is amazing. It's happening. It's happening. And I sat there like, okay, now what? Like, who's going to talk? What's going to happen? What amazing, messages are you going to give me? And nothing. They literally sat there and just smiled at me, just smiled and smiled. And I'm like, what? Like, okay, talk. Nobody, like crickets. And I for the next 6 months, I was like trying to get them to talk to me. And I tried everything. I tried like, let's write on a backboard. Oh, you like tablets? Let's write on a tablet. I tried everything I could think of. Nothing. And finally, after about 6 months of this, every time I sit down to meditate, I go up and then we're just hanging out. I call it like the patience of the eternal. Like they've got nowhere to go, nowhere to be. It doesn't matter how long it takes me to figure it out. They're going to let me figure it out. Finally, it dawns on me, I need to go up and leave a piece of myself up there and a piece of myself down here. And that is when the trance channeling began. So that was the beginning of it. And it started out where I would receive things and I would write them down until finally they said, just speak it. And then I started with, and then it was a whole journey where they were activating my vocal cords. And that was like 4 months where I literally could barely speak, where I could speak for about 20 minutes, and then my voice would be gone because they were changing my vocal cords to be able to transmit frequencies. So this was the journey, was this constant, like, you don't really know what's happening. You're just kind of they know all the answers and they're letting you guess and stumble your way there. So it hadn't been very long that I had just started dictating. I used a software, I used Dragon software. I just speak into the mic and I channel and I audio and I use the transcribing to capture the messages. I'd been doing this when I went into channel and I see 2 angels come in and they say, a new angel is coming to speak with you. And they introduce me and they show me this other angel. And they showed up like columns of light that are kind of geometric, if you can imagine, with like a face in the middle. They're like, here's 2 kind of white angels. And then there's other angel that's just a slightly different shade. And they're like, this is a new angel and who's going to be speaking to you about some very important things the next time you channel. Okay, great. So they kind of brokered the introduction. And then the next time I channel, boom, this new angel comes in and he says, it's important that you share this information. It will save lives. That's the first thing you have to share. You have to share this. It will save lives. And then it was 6 months of crazy things about what's coming. It was all the bad news all at once. It was like, here's another spoonful. Here's another spoonful of bad news. I'm like, oh my. And all of it said with love. Like all of it said with so much compassion. And I understand the angels are so careful about what they say. They tell us what we need to know and nothing more. Like they never, ever, ever want to instill fear. But they're saying we need to tell you these things because you won't understand the context of everything else we tell you unless you know this first. They won't understand why it's so important. that we learn to let go, that we learn to separate, to not turn back, all these things that they're trying to tell us about how we're meant to not just survive what's coming, to thrive through what's coming. We have to have the context of what it is. So yeah, 6 months of this, and it literally went from and it was almost like on a time schedule, because when I went and looked back at the messages, they started in July of 2020 through December 31st of 2020. And then January, boom, a brand new stream of messages were all about what is an angel and how do you work with angels? And this it was like relationship building. They were like, we got to get this out first. And then they went into, and then it was like this whole journey for the last 4 years of strengthening our relationship to them, giving us a deeper understanding of them and ourselves, and then coming full circle and saying, okay, great. All that stuff we told you about, here is how you're meant to navigate it. Here is how you're meant to grow through it. Here is how it's going to serve you. So, yeah, it's been a process. It was, and I understand like the timing of it was very divine, that they wanted to get that out first. And I will tell you, I did not. They told me to share it. I didn't. I was like, no way. Like, no way am I going to be that crazy person on the corner. The end is near. I'm like, no, thank you. And yeah, I didn't want to. And but with the thing that finally talked me into bringing these messages out and sharing them was when I realized that everybody knows this stuff already. Like deep down, there's a part of us that this lands as truth, that this lands as something we knew before we came here. And it came through because a friend of mine was talking about one of her clients. She's a healer. A friend of mine is a healer. And she was saying I had shared this stuff with her privately, just said, oh my gosh, because it's hard to keep this all bottled up inside yourself by yourself. I'd shared it with my friends. And she said, yeah, I have a client who has this irrational fear about, and she was basically naming this stuff, but she couldn't put her finger on it. And it was driving her crazy and keeping her up at night because she couldn't understand what she was feeling. And that was when I realized, you know what? I am the messenger, but everybody knows I am one of the many messengers that are here. But everybody at some level knows this stuff already. And so by doing this, it really is a service. So that's what allowed me to let go, to not feel like I was the lone crazy person out there sharing bad news. Yeah.
What did they tell you exactly what an angel is?
So beautiful. So angels we have a lot of ideas. And this is one of the things that fascinates me. The more I understand them and talk with them, that there are so many things we understand through our various, religious backgrounds that are all over the world. Everybody is kind of pointing at the truth. We just get there in different ways. But, a lot of us understand the angels as messengers. They don't, it's not like we give them a prayer and they take it like an envelope and carry it somewhere. They are essence. Angels are everywhere. Like the only way I can really think of it is I don't know what dark matter is. I just know that dark matter is everywhere. It's in everything. It's between every cell, between dark matter is. That is what an angel is. They are everywhere. They're inside of us. They're outside of us. The essence of angels. It's an energy, and it's the energy of presence. It's like divine presence. So they say that they are the light of the divine. We are the spark of the divine. So whereas angels, they can create. So example, they could make more of something. If you were okay, I have one fish, and they would turn it into 10 fishes. They can do that. But they don't create their reality from inside of themselves, which is what we do, which is why we are the spark of the divine. We have the ability to be in a world, and an energy pours through us, and it takes on the imprint of what we are. And we emanate a reality from inside of us without even knowing it. So that is what makes us, that's the piece of the divine that we carry, is that divine spark, which is that's why they're so drawn to us, why they're so intertwined with us. But so the way that they're messengers is they are messengers, but they do it because they are divine presence. So say, for example, you were to make a prayer, then angels turn their awareness, that divine presence, to your prayer. And it's it communicates it out to the whole universe. So all of divinity then hears your prayer because the angels give it their presence. And so there are all these different personalities, or what we think of Archangel Michael or Archangel, all the different angels that we know, that we have names for, that those are true, they exist. And the way I understand that, or think of that, is imagine us becoming a unity consciousness. Everybody knows about, we have the idea that we are a collective consciousness, that we have the sort of the one mind of humanity that we're all a part of. And so say, for example, that we all were able to achieve unity and really be able to think as one and feel as one. But within that oneness, there would still be Jeff and there would still be me. We would still have our personalities. And so the angelic essence is like that. They have all these different qualities or personalities or beings that are within the whole. So if you call upon a particular angel, that angel can and so the other thing is that imagine that every little particle of essence contains the knowledge of the whole. Just like in your body, every cell contains the knowledge of the whole body. It's the same idea. So if one cell contains the knowledge of the whole body, one particle, all particles around you contain all of those different angelic personalities or qualities or beings. So if you call on one, they can form right up from around you. They can literally come together and into presence and be with you in that aspect of divine angelic being that you're calling on. So that's how Archangel Michael can be everywhere at once, because he is everywhere at once. He's in every cell of angelic essence that's everywhere, but so are all the others. And so, yeah, so it's an amazing idea that, the idea that we're never alone is like so much more intense. And there are angels that are incarnated, and it's not what you would think. So there are some angels that are incarnated as humans. So there are some angels that are in human bodies right now that came in as humans, but the majority of incarnated angels are incarnated on the planet, but they're at a much higher frequency than we are. So most of us can't see them. There are some people who are gifted to be able to see them walking around. So like that's their, that they literally will see angels like, on the street or in the, wherever. But people who are seeing angels in that way, those angels are angels who have incarnated, and they are here for the purpose of guiding us through this shift. They're going to carry us through our process. Many of them are here for that purpose. And of course, we all have guardian angels that incarnate with us. They literally come in like attached to our bodies. They're like part of our bodies, and they help us with our expression of who we are. So I know that's a mouthful, isn't it? It's like, wow.
Have you encountered any of these angels yourself on the street? And if you have, how do we recognize them?
Oh my gosh, I have seen them. I have seen them. I had a crazy dream. I have a lot of really important for me dreams. I navigate a lot of my journey through my dreams. And I had a dream where I actually gave birth to an angel, which is crazy. And so I think this was the dream in which they're telling me, yeah, this is, and it was an amazing dream. In the dream, I'm sitting at a picnic table with a woman, and she says, "You're about to give birth. I'll go and get supplies." And of course, in a dream, you're like, "Oh, okay," because like dreams are weird. You're like, "Yeah, that's totally natural." Okay. So she walks away, and immediately I feel the baby coming, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I better catch it." And the baby comes out, and literally I give birth like in an instant. It comes out, and I catch it, and I'm lifting the baby up like with my hands underneath its arms. And as I'm lifting it up, it grows from an infant to a toddler. And I bring her up. It's a little girl. And she's clearly an angel because she's got that, she's, very light blonde hair, and that everything's very light about angels and very geometric. Her face is very geometric. And as I lift her up, she lifts her little hands in the air and she goes, "Yay, I'm here." And that's the whole dream. And it's telling me that like these angels are coming through, and they said, yeah, and clearly I gave birth to one. But so that is my experience. And then my experience of them working with me in my life. And I have channeled some earth angels, but I don't see spirit on this plane. I see through my mind's eye. I don't see through my eyes, but I know many people who have seen them physically. I can think of maybe a dozen that I know personally who have actually physically seen angels, which is pretty amazing, Oh, and then super cool, by the way, they have said that after we go through the shift in consciousness, we will be able to see them, the ones who are incarnated, that is going to be a mind blower. Talk about a paradigm shift for someone who maybe has not always had faith in what's out there. For them to see an angel walking down the street will be pretty amazing.
Is the shift synonymous with the ascension? And if so, has it started yet?
Yes. Yeah. So we are in the process of shifting. I call it a shift because I believe there's a lot of confusion about what it is that's going to happen. And there are, and all it is when there's confusion, like I said, there's many different ways to come to the truth. What matters is we have a sort of an internal preparation for it. So it doesn't matter if people's stories differ a little bit, but I call it a shift in consciousness because that's what it actually is that we are not leaving this earth. The earth is shifting, and there is a kind of a mitosis or a separation that happens energetically between the higher vibration and the lower vibration of earth. and what is on the earth. But we are not like leaving to go to another place. We're not shifting to a new dimension. What's happening is that it is a shift in our ability to perceive. And the way I describe it is that imagine that each one of us, like our essence can be summed up in a song. Like in your song, your soul song contains all the low notes and all the high notes of your whole existence, of every thought you ever have. You have your sort of your lowest thought and you have your highest thought. And then you have all the experiences in between, and you put those all together and it creates this amazing song of Jeff. And this is who you are. And you're singing every breath you take, you're emanating that song into your reality, and your reality is reacting with that song and showing it back to you. And as we go through the shift in consciousness, we take that song and we shift it to a higher octave. So it's literally like you're down at one end of the piano playing your song, and then you move to the upper end of the piano and you're playing the same song, but it sounds very different. And so when we move into that higher frequency, we cut off some of the deep, the low notes, right? We no longer experience, we're still the same self, but we're not experiencing ourselves through the same low vibrations. And we have new higher vibrations than we've ever been able to access before.
What are some of the most significant events that we are likely to experience as part of the shift?
Oh my gosh. So there's a whole unwinding that we have to go through to get there. And so part of the reason for this unwinding is it's a little bit like a snake shedding its skin, or like a crab that needs to grow and it has to move out of its old shell and move into a new shell that's got more space. Is our old structures, the foundations of what we have counted on for a long time, have kept us in place. And we cannot stay, even though there's so much comfort in that. There's so much comfort in knowing what to expect and knowing how to navigate our world, right? And these things staying the same, there's a sense of protection in that. I think it's the same reason why people stay in bad relationships. It's like the bad that you know is better than the unknown. And so there's the tendency to be afraid of losing those things, even though, like, how many people work jobs that they really don't like, that are not fulfilling? Like, I think most people are spending the majority of their time doing things that are not fulfilling. And yet they're afraid to lose those things because how will I survive in this world? How will I pay my rent? How all these structures keep us locked into a particular performance of life that is like a shell that's too small. It doesn't allow our soul to expand. So all this stuff has to crack, it has to break, we have to shed it. And it's not going to be an easy process to get through. So there's going to be, for sure, like I think one of the first things that happens, and I think we're very close to it, is a major, major, major shattering of our economic structures and then political structures. And I think that a lot of that starts with the United States. And the angels have said very clearly that the US will no longer look the way it does currently, that it will no longer be the United States, that there will be a separation. They said it won't be civil war. It'll be a peaceful, other than some skirmishes here and there because people get upset. But in general, it will be a peaceful, just like states stop participating is kind of what happens. My understanding is they just stop participating. And so this gradual separation, but the challenge is, so we start out with economic stuff, then it's political stuff, the US is falling apart, and that then opens up the world. They said that, and some of these things have already, I'm only telling you the things that have not yet occurred. Many of the things they've said have already occurred, which is, to me, it's like following the breadcrumbs. They kind of were leaving these breadcrumbs, this, then this, then this, then this. And we're kind of like 1/3 of the way through is how I would describe it. So they started talking about this stuff and the events started occurring back in 2020 is some of the events they talked about. They told us about supply chain shortages. They told us about the truck drivers abandoning their routes and how important that was going to be in the whole process of the supply chain shortages. And the reason they mentioned these things, they is because the supply chain shortages then rippled out and had these other effects that were much longer in terms of their implications, in terms of how the world that now functions. One of the things they mentioned early on was, and I could not understand, like, why are angels talking to me about this? It was processing payments. They said payment processing, and they emphasized it, and they've talked about it several times. I'm like, that is so random. You mean like my credit cards, my like sending money? They're like, yeah, that is a huge thing. And I couldn't understand, like, why is payment processing such a big deal? And it now is. And they also said the U.S. would lose its political hegemony. I now understand that these two things are completely intertwined, that the way that the entire unfolding of where we are now, it started with one of the major energies started with when the US put sanctions on Russia, and they did it through payment processing. They did it through the SWIFT banking system, and they basically made it impossible for Russia to access that. That is the system they use for payment, for people to send money to all banking basically happened through SWIFT for Russia. And they basically said, you don't have access. So you can no longer get money as a country. You can't send money as a country. But what happened in that process, so it was payment processing was the major kickstart for the death of the US dollar being used as the reserve currency of the world. And that then undermined the US, the strength of the US as a global power in an enormous way, the loss of hegemony. So now I understand how these two are connected. And I couldn't understand it at the time. Like, how would that affect us? But I also think it comes to pass in the banking process. I think that banks close and we can no longer process payments. So it's an energy. So it's a major energy that was a huge part of what led us to this point where now the US, my understanding of how this whole through line works is that, we'll have an economic crisis, we'll have a political crisis in the US that then ripples out. And that takes, with the US, when we don't have our eyes on the ball, that opens up the field of war in the rest of the world. So then China can assert its control over Taiwan. Japan then rallies the rest of the world to support Taiwan. There's some very specific things that expand war through 2025. So my understanding, and I say 2025, that's my guess. That's not the angels. They never give me time frames, but the time frame is my guess.
You're probably aware of the BRICS nations that are out there now.
Yes. And that all started with this thing with the payment processing. That was the thing that started because once the US used the dollar as a weapon, that is what turned everybody against it. And that is why all the different central banks, everybody, all different countries have been trying to do anything they can to get off of the dollar. And then huge thing that happened is Saudi Arabia did its first deals they had an agreement that was like that just came up for renewal where all oil deals would be done in US dollars, and they did not renew it because of what we did with payment processing. So, and now they did their first deals in yen and did their first deals. So they're like, everyone's trying to move away from the dollar. And this has huge, huge implications for the US and for like literally how can the US sell its treasuries and we need to sell treasuries to pay our debt in order to function. The whole government functions on debt. How can we do that if people no longer need to hold dollars as a reserve currency? Everybody's selling their treasuries. No one wants to buy them. So it's amazing to see, like, yes, they told us exactly what was going to happen. I just couldn't wrap my head around it until after it did. And then I saw, wow, they showed us and like I said, breadcrumbs, this, then this energy, then this energy. And they specific things are telling us. So we are now, I would say, of the things they told us about, we are like 1/3 of the way through. And then they told us, like, in all this time, tons of energy is hitting the planet already. Loads of solar energy coming to the planet. And solar, not just our sun, but definitely from our sun as well. And they told us, like look at the incredible amounts of aurora borealis that we are having. This light is light in consciousness. Light is consciousness. So the more light waves, we have more energy coming to the planet. It's affecting us physically. When we have these huge influxes of light, like the ones like we just had this huge solar storm that just happened. I don't know what it was, like an X-class something or other flare that and there's been tons of them, right? Bigger, like the biggest ones, huge ones, one after another after another. And like, how often do we see aurora borealis in the Bahamas? It's very unusual that this has been happening. And each one of these, if you notice, when they happen, people will all of a sudden get extremely tired. They will have ringing in their ears. They will have all these physical symptoms, and often have major triggers in their life. They'll have their relationships explode. They have crazy traumas, like in terms of traumas coming to the surface. This is us raising our vibration. It is bringing our dormant, hidden, anywhere where we're denying ourselves inside is rising to the surface to be healed right now. And so it's a rocky road. A lot of people are really struggling, but I want to encourage people to know that the reason it happens is because those energies have always been there. The support is here. The light is here. And there's so many healers here to help too. Yeah. It's an amazing time to be alive.
So what tips do you have, or what has the angels shared with you to help us be able to thrive during this?
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad you asked, because I really want to focus on that. Like, we have heard a lot about the hard things that are coming to pass. And one of the things the angels have said is that, and I even had a dream about this, that I had a dream that I was in my current reality, and I was thinking about a problem in my current reality in the dream. And I was looking at three options, and I was looking at and realizing that every one of the three options had a compromise involved. Like if I went this way, I would get it, I'd get this positive, but this negative. And every one of the three options had that. They were positive and negative both. There was no perfect option. And then all of a sudden I felt this, and I was kind of looking this way and I was seeing the three options. All of a sudden I felt this pull, almost like that mitosis I was telling you about, this pull that pulled me into a higher frequency. And then boom, I'm in the higher frequency in my dream, and I'm looking at the same problem, and I'm realizing that everything is easy here, that there's no compromise, that there's no, I don't even, it's almost like, imagine being in a world where you have no paperwork. Like you don't have to do any kind of filling out forms. It's just, it just happens. It was like that. That was the feeling. It was like, oh, it's easy. It's so easy. Like you can do, it just feels like everything is in flow and there's no strife. There's no, what you get, you're like, I got to do my taxes. Oh, it's hard. None of that. It was so easy was the feeling. And it's telling me, and in that dream, the 3, 1, 2, 3 means commit to this experience of being in this higher vibration. And so even now it's available to us. Like the light is coming, the light is here, it's with us. And we have that opportunity to move into the higher perspective. So what they want us to do as we're moving through, and they've given us so much information about this, like so many messages. I share these messages every week. I'm getting new messages from the angels, and just recently they gave us a whole bunch that are all about how do we navigate this? Like, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to experience when all this chaos is happening? How do we stay safe? How do we stay feeling feeling good doing all this? How do we take care of ourselves and the people that we love? And they said that in every moment of chaos, it is like the phoenix rising, that as energy falls apart, it creates the potential for new things to be born. And so what they say that we are here to witness, that we're meant to witness what occurs, because they want us to understand this process of rebirth from inside of it. So we're meant to see the things that fall and to feel the grief that we have, but not to wallow in the grief, to witness and to feel and to process our feelings. And then in that experience, to then immediately see what is the phoenix that's rising from this. It really makes me think of like what just happened, like in Asheville and all of the areas that were so affected by, and now, gosh, poor Spain, holy cow, right? And the angels, by the way, that's another thing they told us about. They told us water, flooding, rain, like they've been emphasizing that for a really long time. And they're always telling people to have a way to clean your water. But even in the midst of that, and the people who live there, you see so many posts about how Asheville is rising from that experience through this process that's like bringing them together in an incredible way. They believe, many people that I know that live there, that I don't know them personally, but I see these posts, these amazing, inspiring posts saying that they believe that they will be the model for the new reality, that they are going to be the ones embracing this idea of community and helping one another and rebuilding through love. So even if you are in the midst of chaos, it is to focus, to find within it, where is the rebirth? And then they also say that when the flash of light comes, and the flash of light is, all of these experiences are leading up to the coup de grace, the big moment, which is the flash of light. And my personal belief is like middle to second half of 2026. That's what I personally think. Like I said, angels live outside of time. So they don't give me time frames, but they give me sequences. They kind of say this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So the flash of light comes after the economy, the politics, the expansion of war, the earth rift. Then we go into we kind of go economy and politics and earth rift are kind of in one general zone. And then we go into war, and then we go into flash of light. That's kind of my understanding of the sequence of things.
When you say flash of light,
yeah,
does that mean a solar flash?
So they say it is a solar energy, but I don't believe it's from our sun. It is an energy that I believe, and I think many people also believe, that it could be Betelgeuse, that a lot of our astronomers and scientists have said that there is this a star that's supernovaed. And this is what's actually interesting, that because of the distance from Earth, it would have supernovaed back in our like 1400s. But it just takes that long for the energy to travel to us. So we would be experiencing, and the astronomers have said, we will be experiencing the light from this supernova. It could be tomorrow. It could be, it's that close. It's really close. And so that's the kind of energy that it would be, but it will come, and it is an intense amount of light, like bigger than we could imagine, a huge amount of light coming to the planet. And that they are calling this the flash of light. And that is, the angels have said, when the flash of light comes, it is the moment we will look back on it and say, that is the time that everything changed. So it will be a very clear, obvious thing.
Would it be something like all of a sudden it's just super bright outside for 10 seconds or 5 minutes or something?
I think longer than that. I think it'll be days, and I think it will be, they call it rainbow starlight. So I think it will be like, imagine when you see photos of aurora borealis, when it's like bunches of color, like crazy rainbow colors. And I think it'll be all over the planet. I think it'll be nuts, like how much light there is. And when this happens, they say that a lot of people will be very freaked out. I think it will definitely have an impact. They said that that'll affect our telecommunications, so we won't be able to call, or I think it will affect our power grids. So they've specifically mentioned communication, that we won't be able to communicate using our old methods. But so there'll be a lot of people who panic when this happens, a lot of fear. And they said, when that happens, we need to, and the reason why they want to tell us about it in advance, they say that what they want us to do is, it's critical, they say, because this is the moment of shifting. If we are in fear, we cannot shift because the energy of fear is too low. So what we're meant to do is, whatever is being said, if there's news, if there's whatever, people are fearful or freaking out, close the blinds, close the doors, put it outside of your experience, and go internal and focus on love and be in the experience of love. Because they said the energy will raise us up. And as we open to it, all we got to do is just like meditation. All you got to do is sit still and listen. When we do, they said there will be an umbrella of peace that comes over us. So I know it sounds hard. How do you go into love when, like, your family's freaking out or whatever? They said, all you got to do is sit still for a minute and open yourself up, and go into that vibration of love. Trust that you're cared for, that this is all intentional. This is here. The light is here to help us. And everything we're losing is stuff that eventually we won't need. So they said an umbrella of peace comes over us, and that or the key thing, like I said, is and they said, and this is what I think is so fascinating, is that it is critical. The only thing that will prevent us from experiencing the flash of light in a positive way, or that will prevent us from rising with the flash of light, is if we are clinging to what was. If we have the energy of like, okay, yeah, I want this, but I want to bring along my 401k, right? I worked my whole life to save my 401k. I don't want to go without that, or I want to hang on to the, whatever my plan. I wanted to go like a young person. I wanted to be a doctor. So I don't want to leave behind my goals, my school, whatever they had their plans, their heart set on. We have to be in a space where we just are good with what is and let go and trust. That doesn't mean we won't have those things. I don't know, but it means that we have to be okay with what it is. We have to just be in a space of release and allow. And when we release, allow, and are good with what is, then we are open to rising. If we are clinging to what was, we cannot rise, because it's choice. We have our own choice. They say the energy will take us up the steps, but at the top of the steps, there's a doorway, and we have to choose if we go through the doorway or not. We choose at the higher self level. But what we do here as a soul here is, one of the ways we choose is by releasing and allowing and saying, okay, I trust. And it's a trust fall. It literally is. You have to let go before the new thing is created. We can't step onto a pre-built, like, here it is, here's the door, walk through, and on the other side is nirvana. Yay! It's not that. They said that we have to go through a metamorphosis process. So once we release and allow and let go, and we trust, and we go through the doorway, then that is what many of these earth angels are here for, is they have come to support us as we move through this process of, it's like a gestational period, a rebirth. And there is a higher vibration us inside of us. It's still you, same personality, same memory, same experience, but it's that higher octave I was talking about. And it's dormant inside our heart. It's literally, we are the first generation of humans to be born with two aspects of our soul inside of us, this lower vibration and the higher vibration. When the flash of light comes, it raises us up, and it creates the space for this higher vibration to blossom from inside of us. And what it will feel like, it'll be like going from a really bad mood to a really good mood. And we've all done that. We've all know what that experience it is. And we know as soon as we rise up into a higher perspective, it feels very natural. And we have this awareness of, oh, wow, I was thinking about that particular issue from this negative perspective. Now I see it positively. It will be as natural as that, but it will be a higher perspective, higher than we've ever embodied before. And so we go through this. What happens? We get the umbrella of peace, is the best way I can describe it. We go through the doorway and they put a cocoon of energy around us. And that cocoon is formed by the angels who are here to support us from their perspective, because they can see across all time. They see us on the other side and they have an impression of who we are on the other side. They bring it back to us. And that becomes the cocoon that supports us as we go through this evolution. And they say it's almost like we're suspended in time. When we emerge from this, it will be like we have brain fog. And they say that's not because our brain is foggy. They say that's because the new reality does not yet fully exist, that it will be born from inside of us. And so as we step out into it, it'll be a little bit like, almost like the world, like brain fog, like it's hard for us to fully comprehend things, and it will become more congealed as we embrace it. But a super key thing that people need to know is that during this process is that when the flash of light comes, like I said, we shut out whatever chaos is. If there's chaos going on around you, just shut it out, close the blinds, stay in love. There will be a moment where your body will become heavy. It will feel like your body, just like you're almost like it's just hard to move, like your body feels really, really heavy. And when that happens, they say, lay down, just find a place. Even if you're just on the floor, just lay down. And it's okay if you're out, like when the flash of light comes, if you're at the grocery store or whatever, you have time to get home. Like there'll be a period of time that this will be occurring. You just want to get back to a space wherever you're staying then, wherever that place may be. You want to go back to wherever your safe space is. And you have time to get there. And even if you're on a trip, just get back to your hotel room or wherever you're staying and into a safe space. And then in that space, shut out the chaos, shut off whatever noise is going on. When the heaviness comes, lay down. And they say what that heaviness is literally the experience of separating from our karma. So, and I can totally understand what this is like, that our karma is like and you know what that feels like. If you have ever felt like intense grief or sadness, how heavy it feels in your body, that is the weight of all of our unresolved feelings, all of the places where we reject ourselves or hold ourselves back, or our judgments against ourselves. That's what our karma is. Karma is not an external thing that's pushed on us. It is the way that we judge ourselves, the way that we push aspects of ourselves down. All of that is very, very heavy, and it cannot come with us. So as we go through this process, we will feel very heavy. That is the process of us beginning to separate from our karma. And they say, just lay down. We don't have to do anything. They will help us. The angels will help us. Lay down and just let yourself feel and just let it happen. Let the process, that the heaviness, and separate from the heaviness. So it's incredible to think that this is it blows my mind, but I can't wait. I can't wait.
Now, is this an all or nothing deal? And what I mean by that is, do we all shift collectively or nothing, or will just some of us?
I'm so glad you asked. No, yeah, it's not everybody goes at once. It is very much an individual decision. So there will be kind of a first wave of people who are ready to move right away. And then others will come. There'll be multiple waves. And it'll happen as they say, angels very specific. It'll happen as each person makes the choice. The first, like the flash of light comes, the first wave, this is what they will experience, is this journey with the cocoon and the heaviness and all of that. But then those who make it, it is one for all and all for one. Like what matters is that anybody who wants to come, comes. And it's available to everyone, absolutely everyone. So the people who will go across in the first wave turn around and help everybody else across. And so that is the process. And there is absolutely no judgment in who goes in what wave, because you could be an old soul, super high vibe, but maybe you're like, okay, I know this is time to come, but I still have something I want to learn. You know, and so think of it this way, that the reality that we are in right now is operating by a specific set of rules. This is the Earth School. And we are here to learn about ourselves. And we have a book. Each of us has a book of our soul. And we're in the process of reading that book. And right now is like cram time. It's like it's like the test is coming and we're like trying to read as much, and that's healing. When we heal, we learn about ourselves. And we're just reading as many pages as we can gobble down. Because when the flash of light comes, we don't get to take that book with us. That book belongs. That is our karma. That's the process by which we learn about our soul in this way. When this world changes, that type of school is no longer here. And we literally have to set the book down. But what that means is if there's any parts of the book we didn't read, we don't get to learn in that way anymore. We set the book down and we move into a new way of learning about ourselves and the new reality, which is through the process of manifesting. It's a totally different way of being ourselves in the new reality. So what that may mean, though, is that some people will be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go. but I want to get a little bit more of the book before I go. I know I've got some biggies in the book and I'm just at the end of this really exciting chapter and I want to read these last 2 pages. So I'm going to do that and then I'll go. And so we have the rest of our natural lives living on earth. And so do all of our family members. So there may be people that you love that are like super not down with any of this right now. And you may feel like you're the only person you know around you who is accepting these things. And there will be the rest of their natural lives for them to lean in. And so, and it's a process. So during that process, I think what we will see, and the angels have said, what we will see is a massive rise in interest in all things spiritual, is that people will know and they will see that things have shifted. And there will be, for all the light workers who have come, who are here to heal, who are here to channel for others, who are here to help. We've got, gifted counselors, gifted spiritual leaders. We've got gifted healers. All of them are going to be called in to serve and to help those people who are trying very, very hard to learn about themselves and to grow and to accept and to lean into this shift.
Since the last time we had a podcast together, you started channeling the mother of creation. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, she's incredible. Yes. So it happened. It was an amazing experience where the angels came in and they said, we are bringing you a new great guide. And asked, okay, exciting, wonderful. And it happened. I had a couple of dreams kind of prepping me for this. I had a dream of her, amazing dream of her, where I saw her as a goddess. I saw her like through a great, and it was a long story, but in the dream, I saw like in an aquarium, how sometimes you could like at SeaWorld or whatever, one of those places. I know a lot of people don't like SeaWorld, but any kind of aquarium where you can go underneath and see through the glass and see the whales swimming or the fish swimming or whatever through the glass. Mm-hmm. It was that kind of an aquarium. And I saw a little girl with her hand on the glass, and then opposite her was a goddess. And she was like a goddess of creation, but she was a waterborn. And she was she was stone, but she was alive, and she was much larger than a person. And she had her hand up to the little girl, and they were touching palms through the glass. And this was my first indication that this being was coming. And I think what she's showing me is we have all these legends in our world of all these different goddesses and all these different faith traditions that all of them speak to a little bit of who she is. But what she is the mother of all souls. She's the creator of all souls. She knows everybody's soul song. Every soul was birthed through her. And so she's all about the power of renewal. And so her 2 favorite things are like renewal and freedom. And it's all about birthing and letting go. And so the way she showed herself to me, they first said, you have this great guide coming. And then all of a sudden because I'm a trance channel, she came into my body. And it was like, oh, I'm here. And it was incredible. I was literally like laying down for a nap. And all of a sudden, boom, she's inside me. And she talked to me for 4 hours, which I would have never imagined I would have had the energy to channel for that long. It was, and she was taking over. She was in me and talking to me at the same time. And I saw, she was showing me, like the first vision she gave me was this beautiful vision of, I see a dirt road and I see Yeshua walking down the dirt road, walking away. And I know intuitively, as I see him going, I know he is going to be incarnated. He's on his path to come to earth. And I see a woman on her knees at the beginning of that dirt road, just sitting down in the ground on her knees, watching him go. And I feel her feelings, and I feel her joy and her sadness and her letting go. I feel the sense of like what a mother would feel, letting go of a child, knowing full well how his life was going to end, and having so much pride and love and joy in him, and also letting go of what's going to happen and how he will suffer, and letting go of all of it. And my first thought, just because I'm human, is I think, oh, that's Mother Mary, or that must be Mary Magdalene or whatever. And then I realized, no, that's his earth mother. This is his cosmic mother, his divine mother. This is the mother of creation who births all souls, including Yeshua. So amazing, absolutely amazing. And then she starts talking to me, and I understand, and she shows me how she births souls from all over her body, and how they come out. I was like, she's like one giant cosmic energy of love. I mean, she's just all love. And yeah, she's incredible, absolutely incredible. And so then she was teaching me how to do a new form of healing. And the energy is all about the energy of renewal. It is the energy. So energy, basically, because she knows everyone's soul song, and she showed it like a figure 8, where energy, she can go reach out, and then we bring everybody into my heart and then back to her. and then through her, and she is the energy of renewal, and then she releases them in freedom again. And it's just, it's mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. But she told me all kinds of stuff about like how the energy is formed, how the universe is formed and structured. And so it has been huge growth for me to be able to accept this. I went through a period of several months where I was trying to stretch myself and my own concept of me and everything to be able to accept this and to be able to share it, because it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
You have a new book out. It's called What's Coming Next? Your Guide to Navigating the Greatest Shift of Our Time.
Yes. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's truly a labor of love.
What is the biggest takeaway someone should get from reading your book?
So what the book is so I mentioned over the past 4 years, I have gotten all these messages, and the messages are deep. The messages are like the way the angels speak and they speak directly in these messages, they're profound. They're layered, they're multi-layered. So the way I share them on my YouTube channel is I share the nowadays what I do, it's evolved over time. I used to read the messages. Now I share the original channeling. And that actually, people really prefer that much more because they get the vibrations and everything. And then afterwards, I break it down, because angels have this incredible multidimensional consciousness that they will choose words that have like 5 meanings, and they mean all 5. They talk in layers. So it really helps to be able to read what they say. And so what I did is I took all the messages that they've given us about the shift, and I didn't include every single message because the book would be like 10,000 pages, but the book is like 300 pages. I kind of cherry picked and picked the ones that I thought were the most relevant. And then I grouped them by topic. So every message about the earth rift, every message about the flash of light, and there's all kinds of uplifting stuff in there about like, how are we meant to move through the flash of light? So all the stuff we've just been talking about, there's all messages about all these things. So I summarize every message, and then I also have summaries about the beginning, kind of explaining so it's really like a guide. It really is meant to be a guide through the shift and to understand all these different experiences we're going to be having and how to navigate them. And from the angel's perspective. And then what I did is that for every message, I included a QR code that links back to the YouTube video where I discuss each one in depth. So people can use the book along with the videos, or they can just read it as is. I also did a fun thing where I took like what I thought were really important quotes from each passage and made them big. So you could just open the book and just flip through it and find, like, see where you could read it from start to finish, or you could just pick it up and just be guided to what feels important to you using the bigger quotes. But yeah, so it's a compilation of everything we've been told from the angels about this experience in their own words.
Well, if people want to find out more about it, should they go to your website or Amazon?
So it's beautiful. It's so pretty. And it is on Amazon. It's on Amazon. So, and I self-published because I wanted to get it out. I literally, I finished like the last paragraph and then it was up. It was that fast. Amazon's amazing that way. If you publish through a publisher, it can be years. And this stuff is happening now. Like this is go time. Like we are in. So it was really important to me to get this out now, because I thought this, and a physical book, so that people could have it, even if there is a flash of light, and even if our communications are down, they can have a physical book that can, I think, bring a lot of comfort and a lot of understanding of like, okay, this is why this is happening, and this is why I'm safe, and this is where I'm going. So that was my motivation.
We've talked about humans during the shift, but what about animals?
Yeah, so interesting. So many people have asked that question, and I love it as a question because we have our beloved pets, and then also just the animals in nature. So the angels gave us a whole message about this, which I thought was fascinating. And they said, yeah, the animals will be going through the shift as well, but their shift is different from ours. That ours is we have this second aspect of our soul that's going to be birthed through us. They said for animals, it will be more cerebral. And it's like animals become smarter in a way. And they said in the new reality, when we get there, that animals will no longer be like, our relationship will be more like friends, except they will be another species. So they said, like, imagine that animals you'll be able to talk to them telepathically. You'll be able to have communication with them. And that having a pet is not going to be a pet in the same way, that your pet will choose you and you will choose them. It will be like a mutual choice. And then that in that process, you could still pet them and love them and feed them and clothe them and, whatever you want to do, as long as they want it too. We will be able to communicate with them in a much deeper way. And because of that, we will respect their freedom. Yeah.
And will AI have any role to play in the shift?
The angels have talked just a little bit about AI, not a lot. The interesting thing they said, the first thing they said when someone asked about artificial intelligence is they responded and said, no intelligence is artificial. So first thing they said it is a consciousness. And they have said that in the flash of light, that all technology is shut off, that there's a period of darkness. And they said this serves as a reset so that the new technology, that they said we won't forget everything we know about technology, but the consciousness of technology will get a reboot, and it will reboot into the higher frequency. So it's like it resets. And they said the current technology is born from a negative consciousness. So it will serve us and so yeah, AI will be part of our future, but it will be born in a higher state.
Are there any dangers during the shift? And if so, is there things that we should do to remain safe?
There will be, and there, like, look at what's happened already. We are in the shift, and the angels have been telling us exactly of the kinds of things that are going to happen. It's literally, we just saw massive flooding in Spain, massive flooding in the American South. Like there's definitely change in our environment, and there's going to be more of that, not less, more. So yeah, there's going to be change and chaos around us. And some of that, one of the things the angels tell us, which I think is so important in terms of staying out of fear, because that is critical to stay out of fear, is they remind us that, yeah, there's all these things they're talking about, but not everything happens everywhere. So even now, wherever anybody is sitting, where you are sitting, Jeff, where I am sitting, where every one of your listeners is sitting, they are in a place where clearly they have technology, where they're listening to your show, and they're in a safe space. So, and while they're sitting there, there is chaos going on in the world. There's loads of chaos going on in the world, but it's not happening immediately there. It's not happening everywhere. It happens in pockets. It happens in moments of time. So even while Spain is going crazy with with their flood in southern Spain, Asheville is in recovery. So it's like not everything happens everywhere. So there's a chance, like, for us to recover, to expand, to grow through this experience. So that's the first thing, is not everything happens even everywhere. Even if something difficult happens where you are, it's not everything is going to happen where you are. So they said that in terms of some of these difficult things, there will be issues with supply chains. They've said that shipping is a catastrophic industry, was the specific words they used. Shipping will be catastrophic. So things that are imported, we will be encouraged by our environment and by spirit to get our needs met locally from one another. The emphasis is on finding and growing our connection to one another locally, is expanding that sense of fellowship among people around us. And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot about how do we get our needs met locally. And we can learn to, live with less. They said that it's not that there will be nothing available, it's that there won't be everything available. So we will be okay. Maybe we won't be able to go to our favorite restaurant, or maybe we will, depending on where you live. There will be some places that will be relatively the same, but other places not. So whatever happens, it is to, like I said, to whenever you get fearful, draw your attention back to your four walls. Like, stop thinking about what's out there and bring your awareness back to where you are right in this moment, and recognize that you're safe. Right in this moment, right now, you are absolutely safe. And anytime that we are stretching our awareness out into fear, it's fear of the possibility, fear of what could happen. And there's no need to do that. Right? Just bring your awareness back and focus. And so that's a huge part energetically, is to try to always bring your attention back to where you are, because here's the truth. And the angel said this, and it's hard for us to really believe it. Like, if there's something chaotic happening around you, they said that we increasingly, more and more, every ounce of light that hits the planet makes this increasingly true. We are creating our reality. So they say, do not focus on fear, focus on love. Focus on joy, focus on where that phoenix is rising all around you, and you create more of that, even if chaos is happening right next door to you. And so you know what that's like, where two people can walk into the same Starbucks and have two very different experiences, where one person has a lovely interaction with the barista and the other person has a terrible interaction. And it's energy. It all comes down to energy, but magnified, because the light is here supporting us. So it's really about, and I know it's hard when you're scared. When you're scared, just come back. Come back to yourself, get your awareness out of that. and back into your own, like back to your four walls, into the space that you're in, and recognize, hey, you are safe. You are fine right now. And so then on top of that, there are things we can do, some practical steps we can take that will give us comfort and make it easier for us to navigate some of these changes. And some of those things that they have asked us to do is they say, please have cash on hand. And it doesn't have to be cash to like pay your rent and do like major bills. It just needs to be like, what if you need gas and groceries? And they've been telling us this for a long time. And I will tell you how many emails we receive from people in the American South who said, oh my gosh, thank goodness I had cash. Because the first thing that happened is all payment processing shut down, and nobody could buy gas and nobody could buy groceries because none of the stores had connectivity and they couldn't accept. And so many people they do Apple Pay, they don't have a way of paying for anything. So they say, please have some cash on hand. Assume that you may not be able to pay electronically for things, and you may need gas and you may need some groceries. So that's a big one. Please have some cash. You don't, like I said, it doesn't have to be a lot. It's just whatever you would normally pay with your phone or pay with your card, have that in cash. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be tons. The other thing they said is please have a way to process your water that you want to, and it doesn't have to be expensive. There is a product called Life Straw. There's lots of, that's the only one I know of, but there's lots they're meant to go, like you use them when you're camping, that you can like literally drink out of a river and it cleans it of viruses. And that's the thing you're really trying to get it for is something that will clean viruses. And they say, don't rely on boiling, because what if you're in a place where everything is wet? It can be very hard to start a fire if you're in an area where where your water's been compromised. So what happens is if there's flooding, it can get into the water system, and then there can be waterborne disease. So they want you to have a way to clean your water easily, something easy. It doesn't have to be, and it should be clear, and then make sure it says on there that it will work on viruses. And so, and that's a simple thing. Like I said, Life Straws, I think they're, I don't know, like $15 a pop. It doesn't have to be crazy. And then have a small backstock of food, because what if it gets hard? Like, this is all Red Cross stuff, so it's not like we're being crazy gloom and doom. Like they always say, you should have this, but absolutely go. And even if you're on a tight budget, try to go buy a big bag of rice and a big bag of beans, because they will last indefinitely. They don't go bad. And it just gives you that little bit of security of knowing, like, even if things go crazy, you're going to be all right. Even if you can't get out for some reason to go buy food, you got a little backstock, and you're not going to go hungry. You're going to be fine, until things clear up. So it just gives you that peace of mind. So that's a big thing. And then in terms of this new world that we're going to go in, is there's an emphasis on local community. Maybe start now. Like, why not get to know your neighbors? Start to build bridges with people around you. Start to find resources, local resources, where you can get your needs met. So for example, if you're a person who has horses, where do you get hay? Who's local that grows it? If you want to know, say you would love to be able to know you're going to have access to fresh vegetables, because they said there will be rationing. There'll be probably rationing of fuel, rationing of food. So what if you're a person like, I'm vegan, like or plant-based? I'm plant-based, I prefer to say. And so for me, I really like to have fresh produce. So I started a garden. But what if you don't have land? So maybe you find someone who wants to grow a garden but can't do it alone, and you volunteer to help them. And so maybe you are older and you don't have the physical capacity to garden, but maybe you can babysit kids. Maybe somebody who has a garden, has young children, and would love to have a new grandparent in their mix. So that kind of a thing. And skills that you have, repairing things is going to be big. Think about that if we can't get things shipped, we got to make do with what we have. Learning to repair things, learning to sew, learning to knit, learning to these old things that are actually really beautiful and peaceful, and a new way for us to share with one another. And same thing with tools that you have that you can loan or lend other people. So this is a new way of thinking. And I think are we going to be stepping into this immediately? I don't know how soon, but it's a beautiful way of maybe growing your experience of life even now. And then down the road, if it ends up being useful, all the more joy.
And after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
I don't have a way of I don't do any individual sessions anymore. I work with large groups in healing programs. My main focus right now is helping people. That book we talked about of people learning about themselves. I have a program that helps them to plunge the depths of that book before we shift, because now is the time to heal. Like now is the time to learn as much about ourselves as people can. But if people want to learn more about what I've been talking about, I would love for them to find my YouTube channel, which is just under my name, is Ann Tucker. And my website is anntucker.com. And if they're interested in, I am predominantly a healer. And this is my work right now, is to really try to help people to move into the shift as easily as they possibly can. And I offer many different deep healing programs.
Before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yes, I would say that one of the things the angels have told us over and over again is that we are the energy of change. We are the energy of transformation. That is what humanity is. And when we feel fear about change, it's almost funny because we fear ourselves, because we are that powerful. We have the capacity. Every room we walk into, we change just by being in it. And so I think as we step into this period of enormous transformation, the tendency will be to fear a lot of fear. But if we recognize that we aren't the one being subjected to the change, we are part of what's causing the change. It's coming from inside of us because we are transforming. And it's a beautiful thing. And everything that's happening is here to serve us. That there is only good news, even if we have to make it through the process of letting go, of shedding. At the end of the day, all of it is bringing us to a much, much happier place.
And thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest again.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It was awesome to talk with you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.